Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and I have a book review for you today. Most recent read, Star Wars Annihilation by Drew Karpyshyn. I really enjoyed this book. And this is our second Drew Karpyshyn novel in the Star Wars EU. The first was his Revan, the Old Republic. And again, that was a video game that he worked on and was one of the video game creators and writers and designers. And that gave him a chance to actually make his first connection to write Darth Bane, which will be coming up later. It may be coming up next, if I'm not wrong. I'll keep talking while I flip through this. But that gave him a chance to actually make some Star Wars connections and write a Star Wars novel. And he gets the dark side of the Force. And I love how he handles the power, the thirst for vengeance, the thirst for chaos, and I think his characters do a really good job. Okay, no, I have one more before I get to the Darth Bane trilogy, but very much looking forward to that. But Drew Karpyshyn, yes, he began with the Old Republic video games and was, I think, a natural individual, a natural author to invite in to flesh out and create some really fun adventures in the Old Republic era. So what is the point of this book? What is the plot of Annihilation? Well, you can see two characters here on the cover. The first is our protagonist, that is Theron, and the second is our antagonist, a Sith Master, Darth Karrid. And though this shows them fighting, they really only have one interaction in the book. It is a fight. So that is what this scene is coming from. But this is a fun story where you have a lot of interconnected family drama, and I'll get to this a little bit later, but this felt like a very rooted Star Wars story. And I'll tell you why in a second. Well, Theron has a really interesting connection, and that he is the son of the Jedi Grand Master Setele. She has been now mentioned in several novels. She showed up last novel and in Fatal Alliance, and she played a very serious role in that book. And that to me was such a shock because of what we know the Jedi to eventually turn into when it comes to any type of personal connection. And what I thought Karpyshyn does really well is he does not view her decision to have a child as a mistake. He logically shows why she would choose to let someone else raise the child. And that is because of the commitment that she has in the job to be a Grand Master. And so knowing that enemies could get to her and really influence her through threatening her child, she chooses to let another Jedi Master raise him. And so even there, though, you have a family element in the Jedi that really is lacking in the later era. But she has a son, and he knows that she is his mother, but they do not have a friendship. They do not have a relationship. They don't have disdain, as in Theron, for his mother, but as the story progresses and they do have to interact, you can see some frustration that maybe he was hiding come boiling to the surface. Well, what is sort of the main tension of this story? Well, there is an extremely powerful Sith Empire warship called the Ascendant Spear. And yes, Darth Karrid is the captain of this ship. As a Sith Master, she has incredible power. She is a fallen Jedi, and we actually get to know her former master. He is someone who is going to help Theron sneak onto this ship and take it down from the inside. So that's sort of our main plot, our main crisis. These good guys have to form a team, they have to sneak onto the ship, and they've got to try to destroy it. Well, what makes this ship, the Ascendant Spear, so dangerous? Well, it's been crafted through through Sith alchemy, as well as incredible technological advancements, to where through medical implants, Darth Karrid can actually plug into the ship. So it's got tech and BioWare, and she can not just control it, but the speed and the precision that she can control, steer, fight, maneuver this ship, because it is fueled not just by fuel, but by the Force as well. And so she has been creating havoc to the Republic forces, and she has gotten a lot of attention from the Dark Council. The Emperor has mysteriously disappeared, and that's sort of addressed. I feel like that would be a way bigger tension point in this story, but part of it is those who are on the Dark Council, there is this sort of, if one of them tries to fill that power vacuum, as the Sith are, it's going to be civil war. So you kind of feel like we're not talking about it. We don't really know where the Emperor went. We're just going to continue to move on as normal. And there was a death that opened up a spot on the Dark Council, and Darth Karrid is one of the premier applicants to fill that spot. So the Republic plans to stow away on the Ascendant Spear and disable it from the inside. Theron puts his team together and attempts for him his most daring adventure yet. There's a lot that I liked about this book. Almost all of the characters are very well written. They all make a lot of sense. They all act in ways that they should. I feel like I say that a lot, but if you're gonna be a Jedi, just act like a Jedi, and then I can understand it. What's frustrating to me is when, because I feel like the story needs this person to be shoehorned into this role, but the character isn't built to reflect that they should be shoehorned into that hole. The first Star Wars novel that I read, and that's in the Star Wars EU, Dawn of the Jedi, Lannery is the sister to the rogue individual who is trying to create this massive black hole and destroy everything. And, okay, for the plot, it makes sense that you would want the sister to track down the brother. But the sister is, like, not good at anything. And so they send her alone on this really, really difficult mission with, like, no help. And, yeah, she messes up the whole thing. But at the end, obviously, it works out well, because it has to work out well. So things like that. If you're going to have your characters, make them make sense for the plot that you're writing. And Drew Karpyshyn did a great job in that. Theron, Jace, and Setele. I loved their unfolding relationship. Actually, when, little spoiler here, but you find out quickly in the story, when Jace begins to figure out that he is Theron's dad, I loved how Drew Karpyshyn just slowly started to drop hints. Like, I definitely figured it out, and I think he wanted us to figure it out. But if you maybe were reading a little quicker or you weren't paying attention, I could see how it would be a big surprise, which is one of those, like, Star Wars elements when it's the whole reveal, I am your father. Okay, like classic Star Wars there. But Jace and Setele and Theron, the element of something brought his parents together. They shared a moment. They had what they thought was good. It fell apart. And coming back together, what does family look like when you can't be family? What does it look like when there's no relationship developed? You are dropped into this social construct that now we're family, though we all have such different lives. What does that look like? And I thought Drew Karpyshyn did a really good job of really addressing what probably a lot of people in this world have gone through, either through foster system or adoption, or maybe people who had a past, grew apart, come back together. How do you sort of go back to normal? What is normal? And is it even right to pretend like things are normal? I loved that relational dynamic. The villain, Darth Karrid, I thought was really unique. She falls to the dark side, and there's a callback to a previous novel, Darth Malgus in Star Wars Deceived by Paul Kemp. He is the individual in his desire for power and his lust for control, one who actually himself was going to try to overthrow the Emperor. And maybe he's had something to do with his disappearance. He has a hand in deceiving and corrupting Karrid, who was sent in as like an as an undercover agent and eventually is turned to become a double agent and then just completely rejects the Jedi and embraces the dark side. Her connection to the ship I thought was really interesting, and that yes, she uses the Force, but not that she's cheating, but she is definitely secure with her tech and her environment. And when that gets threatened, she almost develops like a maternal instinct for her ship, which I thought was creepy, but good. Because yeah, that makes sense. She's definitely towing the line between what is reality and what is not. This is a ship, and yet it's like her baby. So I thought that was an interesting character. Let me look through here. Yeah, finally, Theron, with his mom being the Grand Master, his dad being a very, very important figure. He could have, and I thought Karpyshyn could have written this, that he had grown bitter and jaded against the Jedi, against the Republic, and was just kind of a spoiled brat. That is not the character that is our protagonist. He knows why his mom did what she did. He knows that the Republic is fighting a noble fight, and he just continues to do the next right thing. I thought that was a refreshing breath of fresh air, because I could see how it would have been so easy to just write a whiny, spoiled character who the world is against me, boo-hoo. He didn't do that, and I thought Theron was the strongest character in this story, and I so enjoyed watching him go through the plot and the adventure. There were two things that I thought probably could have used a little bit more development. One was the character of Tethys, and this is a Twi'lek who is a sort of younger sister to Theron, and they have a history where they both were sort of mentored by the same Jedi Master, the one that raised Theron. And so Tethys sort of gets brought into the adopted family, and their love for their master, their father figure, sort of binds them together, but she does not like Theron. And so the whole story is kind of him watching out for her from a distance. If she's in trouble, he'll fly to her without her knowing that he's there, because she'll be really mad and try to kill him. And I'll tell what I think here in a second. And then he'll like help her, and then he'll bug out before she sees him. That's sort of the whole dynamic. And I thought she didn't really have a place in the story. She becomes one of his contacts to get in with a different crime syndicate, but she was probably the weakest character, just because he wanted somebody, by this being Karpyshyn, wanted somebody that Theron was trying to protect, the way that he had been protected by the master who raised him. I just thought that was sort of a weak connection, and if they're gonna be siblings, then let them be siblings. But like, what she hates him, she can't stand him, and I just thought that backstory wasn't developed really well. And then secondly, maybe one other thing that I just sort of thought was interesting, Setele Shan's perspective of Jace. The reason why she sort of ended relations is that she sees the dark side in him, and you know, he has a tendency to hatred and to anger. Therefore, I'm going to cut off everything, and we can't continue our relationship. But then sort of towards the end, when they come back together, she affirms him that he's really a good person inside, and when it counts the most, he is going to do what's right. And to me, it's like, well, if you thought that all along, why did you end things? And if something changed, we just weren't shown that or told that. So I just thought that jump to, you're bad, I can't be with you, to, no, you are good and I'm thankful for you, and I do love you, or whatever. I just thought that jump was made, and we weren't shown or told what that jump was. So one other weak point of the story. But all to say, this was probably my favorite book that I've read so far. Again, I really enjoyed this. Star Wars Annihilation, and it's called Annihilation because of what that ship could potentially do to the Republic if they are unsuccessful. So great dialogue, sensible story, capable characters, and Drew Karpyshyn wrote another good Star Wars book. Dare I say great. So 4 out of 5 stars here. The highest that I've rated Star Wars books is 4 out of 5. I'm going to reserve right to say the 5 out of 5. I just feel like maybe that's something that I need to do retroactively once I sort of get a large swath of these Star Wars books. But 4 out of 5 is what I rated this one. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you're enjoying sort of how I'm going through the Star Wars EU. You can see the playlist that I have entitled Star Wars EU, and I've got them, I think, organized so that you can see book 1 down to wherever I'm at, and that should go in order. But this was book 7, Star Wars Annihilation by Drew Karpyshyn. A really fun Star Wars story, and I would encourage you to read it for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you're interested, you can like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back together with book 8 in the next video.